Okay, this is Howard, and I'm here to give you a little more information on some of the CT shots that I've been making. As you can see from the chart, and I'll make that a little bit larger, I believe. I can make it a little larger. If you can see from the chart, you have the cue ball with the lines that you need in making the shot on CTE. These are all visual lines. So if you're a 15-degree perception, which means it's about a straight shot, it's center the cue ball to what they call the A spot. And if you're not familiar with those terms, I suggest you watch the previous videos so you familiarize yourself with A, B, and C and so on forth. But quickly, A, B, and C means 30, 15, 30, 45, and 60. The aim lines always face the cue ball, although you could have a 15-degree shot on this side as well, because it just reverses itself if it's a left cut. In any case, so your first line you can see is your middle of the cue ball to the A spot. So you're visualizing that, and you're kind of stepping behind the cue ball. So visualize yourself. You actually maybe have to even move your head slightly to tilt it one way or another, so you could basically look at the SL, which they call SL, sight line. The next one is your AL line, which is a aim line, and you're going from the right side of the cue ball, and you're aiming for the C, okay? Now again, these are visuals. So what you do is when you approach the cue ball, you're looking at those two lines. Now there's another line called a parallax line, which is also very important. These two lines give you the position basically to where you put your bridge hand. So when you're looking at your bridge hand, you should be about 5 to 7 inches away from the cue ball, and you should be in a position, so all you have to do is basically go to center cue ball. You're looking at an offset of a half an inch from the center of the cue ball using the parallax, and I'll explain the parallax line. In this particular case, the parallax line is going to be a quarter of the cue ball, and then you're just going to move, you're aiming basically for the center of the object ball. Once you get that parallax line, so to speak, all you do is pivot from your half a tip offset from the aim line, what you do, the parallax line, go to center cue ball, and then you hit. And I'll explain to you as we do some shots. So basic shots to understand. CTE is a really good system. It's much better than any other systems, and you could even include it better than maybe even Ghost Ball. So if you learn the system, it's really going to be beneficial for your playing. And everybody that I've instructed on how to shoot has improved their game 20 or 30%. So if you're in a league and you want to improve your shot making, this is the way to go. Now, if you're a slight cut from a straight shot, now your sight line, again, you're kind of moving behind your sight line. This is where kind of your left leg maybe be around that cue ball. Your bridge hand should be around 5 to 7 inches, but you're visualizing the sight line to the left side of the object ball, and then your aim line is going to be into the B, pretty much towards the P. Again, these little dots are A, B, and C. So your aim line is going to be focused in on the B. And your parallax line, in this case, is going to be a quarter of the object ball, quarter of the cue ball to the object ball quarter. So it's a quarter to a quarter. Very simple. Once you have the parallax line set up from a quarter to a quarter, all you have to do is move over from a quarter inch from that spot to a quarter inch to the cue ball and center cue ball, and and then you shoot. So that's 30 degrees, which is be a little bit of a cut. If you're on a 45-degree angle, which is a little bit more pronounced, now your center line, and again you put your leg behind the center line. It gives you an idea, but you might have to tilt your head one way or another to line it up, and you have to visualize both of these lines by moving your position so your bridge hand ends up in the right spot. If your bridge hand is in the wrong spot, you're just going to miss. So your sight line now is a half an inch from the left side of the object ball on a 45-degree cut. Your aim line, this is a line you're going to, again, visualize. You're in between these two lines. You got to visualize them both, is going to be at the A spot. So you're looking at that and you're visualizing it. Now your parallax line, which is not written here, is a quarter of the object, a quarter of the cue ball to the edge of the object ball. So that line helps you pretty much aim. You're lining up yourself to the parallax line, then you move your cue to the center. Don't forget, you're moving your cue from the backhand, not from the front. So you go to the center and you'll be set up for the line. It's very, very simple. Now, if you're in a 60 degree, which is a deep cut, so the 60 degree, the sight line is 1.5 inches to the left of the object ball. It's almost like in midair, so to speak. So you're 1.5 inches away from the object ball. It's a deep cut, and your aim line is going from the edge of the cue ball to the 1/8 marker. And if you notice these three dots, the 1/8 marker is just between the dot and the edge. So it's just very close to the edge. Those are lines that you have to visualize. And once you get those lines together, you'll be set. Your parallax line in this case is from the right edge of the cue ball to the edge of the object ball. Pivot over to from the half tip, from that spot to a half tip back into the middle of the cue ball. When you shoot any of these shots, your shot is going to be from the center of the cue ball. Of course, you could add spin, but limited. You could add, of course, you want to draw back or you want to follow up, not a problem. So that's the basic concept. And if you look at the left side, it's reversed. And we'll go over the left side cuts. In other words, left cuts. Again, it's just a matter of just reversing those things, and we can do that as well. So I'm going to go over just the basic fundamentals on what I'm talking about here, and we'll go over it together. Okay, now I can do long shots, short shots, all different types of shots, but I'm really putting these in front of the camera so you can really get a grasp on how that works. As you remember, on a right cut, you have the cue ball and the object ball about a foot away, but it's a straight shot. It's going right into the corner, and it's not a big deal in terms of working with it. So the sight line, as you recall on the paper, the sight line is going from the center of the cue ball to the A spot. Okay? The right side of the cue ball is going to from the edge of the cue ball to the C spot. So I have two visual lines. One's going there and one's going there. Okay? So I'm looking at those areas. Now the parallax line is another line. And when I line up, I'm lining up from the half tip offset, which is the parallax basically. It's a half tip offset aiming at from the quarter of the cue ball, aiming at the center of the cue ball going into the object ball. So I'm aiming from the quarter of the cue ball to the center of the object ball. So when I bring my stick back, I'm already in position. My bridge hand, as you see, and the V is very important. That V is very important to make sure you're in the right position. So all I got to do now, I'm aiming at the center from the quarter offset, and then like just pivot over like that, and you're in. Okay, so here we have a situation where you have the 8-ball. Bring it up a little bit. The 8-ball and the object ball, which is really not a straight shot. It's a little bit of a cut, and I can even move it over a little more. So this is a 30-degree perception. So the idea, again, if you go back to the paper that we looked at, is that the sight line, the first line you look at, is the sight line. The sight line gives you from the center of the cue ball to the edge of the 8-ball on the left side. So I'm looking at the center of the cue ball, looking at that edge, and I'm kind of put my feet behind the cue ball. My bridge hand is kind of getting ready to where I got a position. My other line, which is the aim line, is from the right side of the cue ball, looking at the middle of the object ball, middle of the 8. So right there, so I got two lines right now. I'm looking at both those lines. I'm visualizing those lines. And the parallax line is a quarter of the cue ball to a quarter of the object ball, and then I pivot over. So watch this. So what I'm doing now, I'm coming down, my bridge hand is important. So I'm looking at those lines I just talked about, positioning myself to a quarter of the cue ball to a quarter of the object ball. And then I just pivot over. So here's, watch the pivot. I go like that, and you're in. So that's it. And then I can move the cue ball a little bit over, so it's a little bit more of an angle. Okay? But the idea is it's a 30-degree perception. It's not a straight shot. It's a little bit of an angle, but not a lot of angle. But it's still kind of a tough shot in a way. Don't forget, it doesn't make a difference if it's close, if it's far away from the 10 balls, far away from the cue ball. It's going to be the same thing. I'm going to aim, but keep in mind that after 4 dots, it gets a little kablooey on the position. So you got to be respectful of the distance. All right, so we have a 30-degree perception, which means sight line, which is the first line you look at, is from the center of the cue ball to the edge of the object ball. I'm looking right at the edge. My left leg is kind of behind the cue ball, but you still got to tilt your head a little bit to see those lines. So the sight line, I'm aiming, I'm looking at the kind of visual line from the center of the cue ball to the left side of that object ball. And my other aim line is from the right side of the cue ball to B. So I'm looking at that line. So it gives me the position to where to put my V. So then I come down, and I know it's a quarter of the cue ball to a quarter of the object ball, which is the parallax, and then I'm moving over my stick to center. So I'm looking at those lines. I got them visualized. I'm coming down quarter of the cue ball to the object ball, and then pivoting over. And there we go. Okay. Now, I don't know if you could see on the cameras, sometimes it's a little different when you look at it in let's say, real life or so, because the camera doesn't pick up some of these angles as well as you see it when you're on the table. But if I was to shoot these balls straight ahead, it would be almost by the dot on the far rail. So it's a pretty nice cut. This is a 45-degree perception, okay? So if you remember the paper, we're looking at a 45-degree perception, which means that I have to basically aim the cue ball at a half an inch. That's the sight line, half an inch right there. That's my center of the cue ball to a half an inch away from the object ball. I'm looking at that line. I'm visualizing that line, and I kind of put my left leg, my head tilts towards that line, and I know my V is just about looking where it should be. So I'm looking at that line, half an inch, and the right side of the cue ball is aiming around the A spot, okay? So you could say it's A spot. Now, when I come down for the parallax, I'm gonna go from a quarter of the cue ball to the edge of the object ball and then pivot. So here it goes. I'm looking at those lines. I got one line, sight line to the left of the object ball, about a half an inch, aim line, coming right into the A spot, coming in at quarter of an inch from the object ball, cue ball, to the edge of the object ball. And then I'm pivoting, pivot, and you're in. Okay, so here I am in a situation. The 9 ball is a keep shot. I can make it in the corner, but if that corner was blocked, I'd have to make it to the right corner. So I'm going to go for the right corner. So it's a nice cut. If the balls were straight, I probably would make it in the corner. Pretty much relatively easy. But since it's going to the right side, this is a 60-degree perception, which means the cue ball, the middle of the cue ball, the sight line, is 1.5 inches over, which is probably around there somewhere. So you have to aim from the middle of the cue ball to about 1.5 inches over. And that's where you kind of put your left leg, you're tilting your head a little bit, you're moving down. The idea is, again, the V is important. The bridge hand is really important in this case. Making sure that you're 1.5 inches over, that's your sight line. Your aim line is going from the right side of the cue ball right to the 1/8 marker. So that's another line you're looking at. So it's two lines to really give you a kind of a place where to stand, where to put your hand, and so on and so forth, bridge hand. So let's go down. When I'm shooting the parallax line, which is the third line, I'm shooting 1/4 of the cue ball to the edge of the object ball. So let's try it. So I'm aiming at the edge of the object ball from the corner, and then tilting over, pivoting over. Yeah, almost. All right, so here's the 9 ball, and if I wanted to aim straight into the corner, it would be very easy shot. Relatively easy. Anyway, so here we go. We're going to go into the right corner. So this is a 60-degree perception. Now, the other ball I had was pretty close, so I just want to kind of tweak myself in terms of where I stand and how I aim those lines. Obviously, it's going to take a little while before you get acclimated into the CTE systems. But once you do, you'll have a good time with it, and you'll make a lot more shots. So the sight line in this case is 1.5 inches away from the object ball. So that's kind of where I'm looking at the cue ball, the center of the cue ball, aiming at the 1.5 inches from that object ball, which gives me an idea of where to put my hand and where to put my feet and so on. I'm behind the cue ball, and then my aim line is going from the right side of the cue ball right to the A spot, or probably the 1/8 marker, which would probably be where that stripe is. And then I'm looking at that too as well. I'm coming in at 1/4 of the cue ball to the edge of the object ball. So let's do that. And then I'm pivoting over. So that's it. I pivot over. And there you are.